Okay, just doing a test shot, just making sure that looking at the camera, coming up close to the camera. I'm gonna back away from the camera and this and that, and I'm gonna go. Hey guys, Sean here again, 369 DNP. We're gonna go over some more bike stuff today. On my bike, on the last video you saw, I went ahead and I washed it and degreased it, and I degreased all the chains and the sprockets or cogs, however you want to say it, the gears, got it all cleaned up. Then we went through and I showed you guys how to lube this properly without getting a bunch of excess everywhere, and what kind of special lubes to use for what occasion. So again, you can go research all that. As far as what we're going to do today, gears. Gear shifting. We're going to go through all the gears. We're going to make sure that they all shift the way they're supposed to. Need a little adjusting, so we'll work on that. What does it take to shift the gears? Well, it doesn't take much. You just need a couple of tools. You just need a little bit of know-how, and then you just need to look at the line of sight of things and just make sure things line up properly, and that the chain stops where it's supposed to stop, and that it travels when you want it to travel, and only travel that amount that you want it to travel. That's pretty much it. I only have the one gear shifter up here, and I have a one, that's with the one gear by 12 on the back here. With this system, I only have one thing to do. On my wife's bike, I'll get that up on here, and then we'll look at both the front derailleur and the rear derailleur and the gearing system. Now, if you have those systems where you have like 3x6 that she has, that's an 18 possibility of gears that she's going to go through there. I only have the 12. I have the 1x12. I only have to go back here and I just have to set this up, then I'm good to rock and roll. As long as everything else is good and that's set up, we're good to go. So join me on this one. We're going to get you up and close and personal, so you're not going to see this ugly mug. You're just going to be staring at the gears because we're going to go through a few things. All right, here we go. Okay, guys, so here is the rear cog, set of cogs, or your cassette. At least that's what it was told to me a while back, is that this was referred to as a cassette. I don't know if that's true or not. You may want to go look that up. But it is the rear set of cogs. I have this shown because this is where we're going to be doing all of our adjustments, okay? Right now I have it on the top gear or the lowest gear. So that's kind of confusing for a lot of people, okay? So let's go over some components here. This is going to be the biggest gear here, okay? And it's going to be the one that's the highest up there for the chain, but it is the low gear. Even though everything about it says bigger and top, it's actually the low gear. Why? Because it's the easiest spin. So if I turn my pedals, look how many times in a rotation my pedals go around versus the tire. So now I'm going to switch this all the way down to the bottom, or the smallest or the lowest gear, but that is the high gear. Why? I'll show you. I'm going to click it down here. It's going to jump a bunch because I'm clicking a bunch. Okay, so now we're down here, right? So now watch the rotation. As I start to turn my pedal here, watch how much this travels around. It's already gone around so much more. So for every one rotation here, you'll have many rotations here. You can go ahead and count the rotations yourself if you want to know on your bike on how many rotations per pedal it takes. But that's what's going on here. This big gear, the one that's up the highest, that's the biggest gear, is the low. And because it's for low going uphill, you want to get into low gear so you can get up the hill easier. And this is going to be your high gear, like you're going down a highway in a car and you put it all the way over into the top gear you have, 5th, 6th, 18, whatever. That's going to be your high gear. Even though it's the smallest and it's down at the bottom, it is the high gear. So high gear, low gear. Okay, why is that important? Because on your derailleur here, you're going to have some screws on here that are going to do some different things. There's basically going to be 3 screws. There's 2 main ones you want to focus on, and they may be labeled L and H. Okay, Now that adjusts for the low gear or the high gear, okay? Meaning it'll adjust down here at the high gear and up here at the low gear only, okay? It's not gonna do anything for the gears in between. That is a whole different thing that we're gonna do. Basically, I don't have that right here, but up at the top where the shifter is, and I'll show you here in a minute. Actually, I'll show you right here. Okay, so up here at the shifter, we have what's called the barrel adjuster, okay? The barrel adjuster is how we create the tension on our shifting cable, okay? This is a cable in here. It's not hydraulic. It's just a metal cable tied to mechanisms in here. And what this does is applies tension or de-applies and loosens it. So that is going to be how you set up for the alignment of how these sprockets are going to line up with your gears down there and how your gears are going to shift. Okay, so we'll deal with that in a minute. But first, we need to set up the start and stop points where the chain doesn't fall off the gear at the top end or the low end. And that's what those other ones are for. So let's go back down there. Okay, guys, so now we're back down here at the back derailleur and cogs, set of cogs. First thing we're going to adjust is to make sure that the chain cannot travel off of the sprocket this way. And we're going to make sure that it cannot travel off the lowest sprocket this way, or cogs. The way we do that is by what's called limiter screws. Okay, again, you have the low or L limiter screw, or you have the high or H limiter screw. Why is it called a limiter screw? Well, mainly because it's limiting the amount of travel that this chain can do past that gear. They're actually stop screws. So they stop the derailleur from moving anymore down here and taking that gear and dragging that chain off or allowing it to come off. Same with the low gear here. It's not going to allow it to come any further this way. So if your chain has ever fallen off this side or gone into the spokes, you need to adjust that limiter screw. That's the first thing you do before you make any other adjustments here, okay? You don't want to worry about the shifting or anything like that right now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to locate our limiter screws. There's going to be various screws on this, and I'll show you what they all do. So I'm going to get my little GoPro here, and I will get a little close-up shot. Okay, so on this, you're going to have this screw right here is the B adjust screw. That is going to be something that we won't worry about right now. That is something for much later, okay? Right in here, I don't know if you can see those two little screws right there. Those are your L and H screws, your high and low limiter screws. On these screws, some of them may not be labeled, okay? You may have them unlabeled where you're trying to figure out which one is the low screw, which one is the high screw. We will show you how to do that. Essentially, when the cassette is locked in a position on the high gear, start wiggling that screw around, turn it one direction and the other. If you see this suddenly move, that's because that limiter is pushing on the derailleur itself and making it move. And that's the one that you're going to use because that screw is affecting the top position, okay? The other is not going to have any effect on that whatsoever. However, if you shift it all the way to the bottom and you tried the other screw, and now you can confirm that it's moving that around at the bottom, then you know which one is which. So play with it a little bit there and you'll figure out which one is which. Once you figure out which one is which, then we're going to do some adjustments. Okay, so first things first. We're not going to worry about the top one right now. We're going to worry about the bottom one. That's where we're going to start. So let's go ahead and shift this guy all the way to the bottom. Again, you will need a bike stand because a bike stand is going to allow you to do this rotation like this. Now, let's say that you can't get it all the way to the bottom. Okay, well, then that means you're going to back off the limiter screw so you can get it down there. And you're going to loosen the barrel adjuster up at the shifting points where I showed you before. So I have shifting switches. It may be different for all you guys, but they're all going to have the adjustment barrel next to the shifter. Some may have adjuster barrels down below at the actual derailleur itself. If that is the case, if you have one down here, go ahead and loosen them both a little bit. You can do that by going counter or going clockwise. So If you turn it clockwise, it is putting slack on the cable, okay? Now, this one does not have a barrel adjuster down here. It only has it up top. That's fine. I'd rather deal with 1 than 2. 2 is not hard, but we'll show you with my wife's bike. Now, we have, say you can't get it all the way down here, go ahead and back off the L limiter screw, whichever one you find to be the L. If it's labeled, turn the L screw, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, turn the H screw, because even though this is down below, this is going to be your high gear, okay? So turn the H screw to adjust that. Now, as far as if you get it down here and it wants to jump off the chain and everything, don't worry about it. We'll get to that point. Let's say you get it down here, but now you still have a lot more clicks that you can click on your shifter up above. Well, that's fine. We're going to adjust. This is the whole point of doing this. So we're going to start, get it all the way down to the bottom gear, okay? I have no more clicks. It doesn't want to go down anymore. It's right there. I already have this pre-adjusted, but we're just going to do some tweaking on it. So now I'm going to turn these screws and show you which one does what. So keep your eye on these gears here, these shifter gears, of the derailleur. There's one here and there's one here. Now, if you see this one here, watch how it aligns with these gears, okay? If you see it if you see this whole derailleur start moving back and forth, that's the screw we want to mess with. Now, we have it on the bottom gear. We want to figure out what screw does the top or the bottom action here. What is the limitation screw for the low gear and the high gear? And, well, actually low gear and high gear. So this would be the H screw, the high gear screw. So you would think, because the screws are lined up next to each other, left to right on the gears, it's actually reversed from that. So if you watch here, I'm going to go to the inner screw. Now I'm going to turn. I want you guys to watch this derailleur here. See how that's moving in and out? That's the one we want to adjust. So we're going to adjust that as we're turning. If you hear that noise, we want to get rid of that noise. So turn it in increments to get rid of the noise. Mainly what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have it down on this bottom gear. So it doesn't want to shift down to the bottom gear right now, okay? So here's prime example. So we're going to back it off until it shifts onto that gear. And then we're going to slowly back it out in quarter turns until we don't hear not the clicking noise I hear from this free. This is the tire clicking noise from the free spin. We're talking about the gear noise from it going tick, 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 tick. Okay, we're going to go ahead and back that screw out to allow it shift back down to that bottom cog. Okay, I turned it in more. It's trying to shift up to the next gear. So now we're going to go. Okay, it just shifted, all right? So now we're going to shift inward until we feel the grinding or the noise that we hear stops. We actually want to screw the screw inward until we hear a symptom. Okay, so right there, I can hear and feel some grinding. So now I'm going to start backing the screw out until that goes away. You can also look down the line just to see what it looks like. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. We want it where it's going to stop right here, where it's not pushing against this other gear, and you're not getting that noise. It's totally quiet right now. There's no rubbing or grinding. So that's what you want. You want this to be as inward towards that gear without touching and trying to climb up on it. But you want that limiter to keep it from going any direction or any more of the direction off of this way. So that's pretty much it there. You can freewheel it and it actually does pretty well. So that we're going to stop with that screw there. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust our barrel adjuster to see for the next, or we're going to adjust the barrel adjuster to line up the gears with these other gears. And then when we get to the top, then we'll go ahead and we'll adjust the top gear for the same limitation screw. So it's pretty simple. Start going up through the gears. If you start hearing grinding, any noise, any complications, if it skips a gear, if it doesn't want to go up a gear when you click your shifter, then you can make an adjustment. Again, I've already pre-adjusted this, so my barrel screw is pretty good to go. So that one was kind of rough. So we're going to go back down one. And we're going to take our barrel screw and we're going to turn it one click one direction and then one click the other direction. You can start with, so basically if you turn the screw clockwise on the barrel adjuster, what you're doing is you're releasing the tension on it. I know it gets kind of complicated. Just know that if you go clockwise, it will release the tension. If you go counterclockwise, it's going to increase the tension. So what do we need to do right here? Well, it's having trouble trying to get up onto that other gear, so we're going to back it off a little bit and relieve the tension. But depending on whether we add tension or take tension away is depending on whether this is going to move in alignment with that gear. So basically we're trying to align so all the gears are going to be lined up appropriately with our shifter. So when that shifter is told to go to that next gear, the alignment of these sprockets are right in the line with these sprockets. You can look down the line and pretty much tell, but it's kind of hard. So you go off a noise and you go off how well it shifts. If it's not making noise and it's shifted smooth, we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this one click, relieve some pressure. Now I'm going to try to shift again. That was a lot better. Yeah, it was a lot better. So now we'll do the next shift. Oh, it's having some trouble with that. So let's go ahead and let's do one more click. We'll try that gear again. Okay, that's getting worse, so we'll go the other direction. Okay, so here how it's having a lot of trouble. So we're going to go back the way we were. Getting better. A little better. There we go. Now let's shift up to that top one. So let's go ahead and adjust it just a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop here. We're not going to adjust anymore because that may not be the barrel screw. This may be the top limiter screw not allowing you because this limiter screw is trying to push it down onto this gear. So let's go ahead and adjust that. Remember, the inner one was adjusting the low or the high gear, okay? The little high gear. And then the outer one is now going to adjust the upper, bigger, low gear. I know it's all confusing and backwards, and I don't know why they set it up like that, but it does kind of make sense, but then it kind of doesn't. So we're going to go ahead. I got noise and vibration there. So now I'm going to screw this screw in until it tries to shift down onto this lower cog. Okay. Okay, I'm all the way in, and it's trying to actually shift onto that lower cog. So now, and it's making that noise, so you'll hear it. Oh, there it goes. So now I'm going to back that off, quarter of a turn, see if it jumps back up. There we go. That's all it needed. That's still, I can feel it. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit more. And that's about it. Now I know it's not going to jump off that way, and it's not going to jump off this way. It's going to stay on the cassette, on these gears, and do what I want it to do. So now I'm just going to shift down through the gears and make sure they all shift smoothly. I don't want anything to skip. So in other words, I don't want to click once and have it skip 2 or 3 or more gears. Okay, and now I'm going to go back up. Okay, still having trouble with that gear. So now we're going to adjust the barrel adjuster again. There we go, just a little turn of the barrel adjuster. Okay, so now this other angle that I'm going to show you, we've got everything adjusted here the way we need to adjust it. So it's not going to slip off the top side here. It's not going to slip off the bottom side. And we have it aligned for each individual gear. As it goes up, it climbs smooth and it drops down smooth, okay? So we're set to go there. The only other thing that we're going to be adjusting here is our B screw. What this does, don't get it confused with the barrel adjuster. The only thing that this does is it determines the spacing between our derailleur sprocket or cog and our cog up here. So you're going to want to go to your top gear, and then you're going to look at the spacing. You want to be about 3 to 5 millimeters of space in there. So that's about the thickness of the screwdriver, or you can go get an Allen wrench or an Allen key, and those are those octangle things. I'll show you those here. Okay, so you got your normal screwdriver, correct? So now you're going to have different forms of Allen keys. Like I said, you want to go ahead and look at the spacing between the derailleur cog and your largest cog here. And what that's going to be is about 3 to 5 millimeters, 5 being probably the maximum you want it to be away. So as the gears stack next to each other, you just want to make sure that that spacing in between there is proper amount so that the gears aren't smashing into each other, the teeth aren't smashing each other in between the chain here. And that's all you're looking for there. And what that's going to allow is that there's correct spacing between those all the way up and down. Now, what is an Allen key or what is an Allen wrench? Well, it comes in various forms. So this is essentially the most common one you're going to find. It's going to look like this, okay? It's just going to be 6-sided wrench, or, and you can use either end of this, but one end is going to give you a lot of torque, and the other end is not really going to give you a lot of torque, but it'll be able to unscrew a lot faster. So anyway, you have another one. This is an old school one that they used to give out. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of Allen keys, okay? And you got all these here that you can use, all right? So there's ones like that, and then you have ones that can go on sockets, okay? So like a socket wrench, I have a little 1/4 inch drive. That's a 1/4 inch drive for my 5 millimeter. So I can take this and go ahead and I don't have to stick it in there. I don't even have to get it close. I just kind of have to eyeball it and then look at it and see if it's a proper gap. If it's not a proper gap, then you're going to want to adjust this screw, and that's not going to affect anything we just did here. Okay, it's not going to affect the shifting. It's not going to affect if this chain's going to come off or not. All that's going to do is just make sure that these plastic ones aren't getting ground up by the metal cogs, okay? Because these two are plastic. They wear out, they wear down. You will have to replace them at some point. They're just guides. They just help guide the chain where it needs to go, where you want it to go, and where the shifts are supposed to happen. Let's get a little GoPro out here. Okay, so we got our little GoPro happening. So I'm going to sit down these other Allen keys. I have this Allen key right here. All right. And what we're going to do with that is we're just going to look at the depth between the gear here, this plastic gear right here for that's part of the derailleur. It's the guide gear or the guide cog. And then you're going to have the metal cog up here. And we just want to look to see if the gap between these two teeth points, you can see where this tooth is going to touch this tooth. As it comes around, you can see how it wants to contact that other tooth. Well, at that point where it's going to contact, that's where we want to see, what's our depth. And it's actually 5 millimeters. So we're good there. Okay. You can just eyeball it and check it out. You can see where some of these have gotten chewed up pretty good. I'm going to have to replace these eventually at some point. It's just what happens. It's what they do. It's what they go through. So as far as setting up a rear cog cassette and derailleur system on a 1x12 bike, that's it. We're pretty much good to rock and roll now. We can go. If things start happening on the bike ride, you can come in here and fine tune it. But again, you're going to need a stand, and you're going to need just a screwdriver for these screws down here. And then you're just going to want, or any other way you can measure 5 millimeters. This is the easiest way. And you can measure 5 millimeters in between there. So we don't need to adjust this screw today because that's totally good to go. We adjusted the other ones because just over where, and also depending on what you lean this against when you park your bike for the day or for the evening or whatever, lay it on the ground. Don't lay it on this side. Lay it on the other side because any pressure on this will change the effects of everything we just did. So try not to bang it into things. Try not to lay it on this side. But as you start riding, there's a thing called temperature, okay? Thermodynamics. As things heat up and cool down and expand and contract, that's going to change the parameters of everything, including your rear derailleur. Okay, the gears will heat up and expand. Metal, everything with heat will expand, and with cold contract. Okay, so as it's sitting in your garage over winter and everything contracted, and you go out for a summer ride, everything starts expanding and heating up, especially as you start going down a hot asphalt road and all these tires start getting the heat built up in them, and your brakes start getting the heat built up in them, which is right next door to your cog system. And the friction from this without proper lubrication can get really hot, but not hot enough. I mean, you're going to be like, ooh, that's warm, but it's not going to burn you. The brakes will burn you. They do get that hot. Now, as far as heat, expansion, and contraction, that little bit can change those minute amounts of adjustment that you just did with your rear derailleur. So again, maybe you have to fine tune it here and there, but only minor. And now you know the basics of what you got to do. You just have to stop the chain from going that way off the last cog up here, and you have to stop the chain from going off the cog here. Then all you have to do is just make sure that the chain is set up, that the tension on the cable is set up so it allows it to click into the proper spots. Okay, if you have a gear shifter where you're pushing it up and down, a little bit different, but essentially you only want it to go a little bit at a time as you're pulling that down. You don't want it to keep jumping a whole bunch of gears. That's why these clicker systems are so much more better. Here we go with my wording again, is because they're set up specifically for little jumps, little millimeter jumps that they're supposed to do. And all these gears are all set up with the same spacers and same spacing. So it doesn't matter how many gears you have, the spacing in between the gears typically always going to be the same. So if they set the gear shifter up with the same distance of click, all you have to do is click it and it should go to that as long as it's adjusted correctly on the rear derailleur. So that being said, that's all there is to that. On the front derailleur, we're going to go ahead and get my wife's bike up here and we'll show you that part too. It's going to be different because we're going to have the chain in certain positions up front to adjust the rear. And we're going to have the chain on certain positions to adjust the front. That's just how it goes. And there's two shifters that you're going to have to deal with, and there's going to be several barrel adjusters. Okay, so I think she has them down here and up at the shifter as well. So that's fine, but it's just a lot more to do. This is simple. Simplified it down into just one derailleur, 12 gears. Go have fun. Again, stop the gear from coming off this side, stop the gear from going off that side. Make sure it's all adjusted in between. Make sure the gap between the gears is good so they're not chewing each other up. Go ride. That's it. Okay, so for those of you out there that when I talk about whether it's with a screwdriver or whether it's with an Allen key or anything I'm talking about, even if I just turn this wheel, what I'm talking about when I say quarter, half, full turns, that means that if I have this Allen key like this and I want a quarter turn, okay, you're just breaking the whole circle up into quarters. 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so quarter turn, 2 quarter turns, well, that's a half. 3 quarter turns, well, then you go all the way to here. So a half turn is that, okay? How do you tell that with a screwdriver? Well, a lot of screwdrivers come with indentations like this. You can even go ahead and mark it. Do whatever you have to do up here or on here just to keep track. You can even watch the blades. A lot of screws, especially like on these, have one part of the Phillip is going to be long on the screw and the other one's just going to be short, okay, to help you keep track of how much it's turning. So there's also all sorts of ways, but you kind of have to focus. So quarter turn on a screwdriver is probably just going to be that, okay? Half turn on a screwdriver is going to be all the way around. And then a full turn, and so on and so forth. So I know that seems redundant or basic information that some people may go, why are you telling me that? Like, that's a duh thing. Well, some people don't know. Some people are going like, well, what exactly do you mean by that? Well, I mean what everybody else usually means about that. I'm a former mechanic. I'm mechanically inclined. I've done a lot of different things. But from construction on a house or a deck to working on cars to working on semis to driving semis to riding a mountain bike to flying a plane, everything, everywhere, when they say, hey, quarter turn on that carburetor, that's it. So some people may not know that. Okay. Now, what's an eighth? Well, you're breaking that circle down into eighths. Think about drumming. What's a quarter note? 1, 2, 3, 4. What's that on a guitar? Quarter notes on a guitar. Same thing. 4 count. What's eighth notes? Well, you take that whole circle, break it up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then if you got 16th notes, well, same thing. You know, you're just breaking it up even smaller. 32nd, same thing. The 64ths, going, okay, so all you're doing there is basic mathematics, but it's real simple. So if you have 1 and you break that in half, you're going to have 2 parts. Okay, so 1, 2. So 1 goes to 2. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is what? 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? What is 4 plus 4? Or 4 times 2? Well, you're going to get to eighth notes. Double 8, you get 16. Double 16, you get 30 seconds. Double 30 seconds, you get 64ths. And it just keeps going. So it just depends. It just, how fine are we going to get with our measurements, our little turns, okay? So use that in your head. So if you're going and you're like, I just need a little eighth of a turn here, or a little 16th. But generally speaking, anything past an eighth of a turn is just going to be too mild, it's not going to make that much of a difference. If you try to turn something just a 64th on here, well, if you imagine that's quarter, so this is eighth, so that's 16th, so 32nd, 64, like, did that even move? That's a 64th turn on a little screw like that with a screwdriver. So if you had the Allen key, so if you had quarter of a turn on that screw, then this is going to be eighth, this is going to be a 16th, 32nd, and 64th is just going to be like that little amount, okay? So that little amount really isn't going to do much in most mechanical worlds, okay? That's why they usually just go with quarter turn, half turn, full turn. They set everything up for those 3 variants, okay? Now, you may get away with just a little eighth turn, like maybe on a carburetor, on a classic vehicle of some sort, and it'll give you just a little bit more of a good idle or a little bit more horsepower and RPMs, a little smoother engine vibration, whatever it's going to be. Well, some things are set up for finer adjustments like that, but generally speaking, on most things like this, it's just going to be a quarter or half or full turn. So that's essentially what we mean there. Past that, this is it. We're set to go. We're all set here. I'm going to go ahead and get my wife's bike up here, and we'll go over the front derailleur and the rear derailleur and what we need to do to adjust that. Okay, so I forgot to put gloves on this time. My hands are getting pretty dirty, but yeah, that's another thing is you might want to wear some gloves because you're going to mess in with parts that are kind of greasy and dirty. If you got contacts like me and like you need to touch your eye or rub your eye or whatever, yeah, you got to try to run and wash your hands and all that stuff too, or you get something in your eye. So anyway, this is my wife's bike. It is a Huffy Trail Runner from Walmart, okay? She liked the colors because she's only 4'10". It was the right height for her. But yeah, Walmart's not doing too bad with their bikes lately. Actually, it's not too bad. I mean, you get what you pay for essentially. There's going to be some cheap parts on here, and the people that assemble it in the back of Walmart are, I'm sure they're nice people, but they don't have this kind of knowledge. And maybe they do, but maybe they're not paid enough to care, or maybe they just don't care, or who knows. But essentially, you want to set this up properly because, especially the brakes, because that's someone's safety, okay? If they can't stop going down the hill and they just bought this and rode it for the first time from Walmart, well, that's a liability thing, but Walmart tries to go through loopholes like everybody else, like, hey, you bought the bike. Once you walk it out the door, it's no longer our problem. So that means that you need to have the knowledge to know, like with your cars, when you go to a dealership to either buy a car or to look one over to make sure it's, you know, good, or when you're going to go to a shop or a dealership to get your car worked on, you kind of want to have some basic general knowledge. That not that you need to do this stuff yourself, but that you need to have an understanding of it, so that way if you took your bike to a bike shop, or you buy one from Walmart or someplace like that, that you know what you're looking at and that you know what needs to be done, or if it was done correctly, so it does need to be fixed. Whether you do it yourself or take it somewhere else, you know, you buy a bike at Walmart and you're like, I don't have the skills or the nature to be able to do this, but I kind of want to understand what's going on. Watch my video. There's a bunch of other videos out there. Google it. AI exists. Go check it out. They'll tell you. You know, we'll all tell you. And then you'll have the knowledge. So then you can take this from Walmart and go, okay, this is, I just want to look over it. I mean, it seems okay. It rode okay down the street, but, or before I even ride it, I just want to get it checked out by a second opinion, third opinion, whatever. Go take it to an actual bicycle shop that are professionals that actually treat customers correctly, treat the equipment, they actually care, and they know what they're doing. They do this day in and day out. They know every component on this. They know the exact words for things, whereas I don't. But they're going to be able to look this over and go, you know what? For what you paid for it and for what it is, you're good to go. Maybe they didn't set the brakes up, but I got that adjusted for you. I readjusted the derailleurs for you, so it should shift nice. And they may not go into all that jargon with you because a lot of people don't understand the words. So they're just going to say, okay, so I fixed it up, so you're going to be able to stop now. The brakes work correctly, and it shifts beautifully, so you should be able to have a safe, comfortable ride. We also went ahead and lubed things up. So that's essentially what I'm here to do, and what other videos and other people and other platforms out there like Google and AI are there to help you just stay informed and be no more knowledgeable about it. So I'm going to go through a tutorial that if you want to do this yourself, you can do it. You just saw what I did with my bike with the 1x12 system on it. We saw in the previous video how to wash and lubricate the chain properly, okay? On my wife's bike, I have not washed it. I have not lubricated it. We're going to go ahead and adjust it, and not worry about washing and cleaning it up for her later. She's got a bad hamstring right now from workout, so she's trying to let that settle for a minute. So I figure I at least got a week before I have to have this thing washed up and ready to ride, right? So as far as her bike concerned, she has 3 gears on the front with the front derailleur, and then she's going to have 6 gears on the back with the back derailleur, okay? I'm going to move my tools so I don't trip over them, and I'm going to bring you guys over here, and we're going to get some close-up shots of us working on that. How how should we do this? In what order should we do this? Well, just like we did with my bike, we're going to set up the rear derailleur first, okay? Sweet, simple, to the point, okay? If you notice on her, she's got this plastic shield that's supposed to help prevent and protect the spokes and prevent the chain from coming off of here. Doesn't work. They always come off anyway if they're not set up correctly. But it does actually protect the spokes. But the thing is, it's plastic. So after a while of riding around and elements getting on it and the sun beating on it, it can start to yellow. That's when it becomes brittle and it'll crack and shatter, and that becomes a whole different issue. So how do you take these things off? Well, that's kind of complicated too. You essentially would have to break it out of there, because you'd have to take the tire off, you'd have to take the sprockets off of there, or the cassette with the cogs, and move all that out of the way so you can get that plastic thing off of there. Can you do that? Yes. Do you want to? That's up to you. Do what you want. It's your bike, you know. You can paint it pink and gold for all I care. I don't care. Everybody's got their own unique and way of doing things. Now, some features about her gearing system here is that, like I said, Walmart has really stepped it up. They have Shimano equipped derailleurs and rear derailleur and front derailleur. Okay. The brakes, though, I'm not sure what brand the brakes are. There's no brand name on them. I never really bothered to look, but I'll take a gander here. They're by a company, Power, or maybe that's the product of Shimano, Power Brakes. I don't know. Because that's what that says right here. So this front derailleur looks like it's by a company called Power. But the rear derailleur is a lot more intense and a lot more intricate, and it needs to be built correctly. So Shimano, they're pretty damn good at it. So good thing we have that there. This one, it's not that big of a concern, but this has some different adjustments that we're going to do on the front derailleur to make sure it has proper alignment and spacings than the way it goes on the back. Here's how this is going to go. We're going to set up the back. We're going to shift this all the way to the largest cog on the front, and then we're going to shift it to the lowest on the back, so that way we can go ahead and adjust our limiter screw on the high gear. The smallest gear is the high gear, biggest gear is the low gear on either one. So it's weird. And those screws are now lined up here. Here's our limiter screws, and it's going to limit the travel of the chain. So it's going to not allow it. It's setting a limit so the chain will not travel into the spokes. It's setting a limit here so the chain will not come off this way. Same thing up here. It's setting a limit so the chain will not climb over the top and fall off completely, and it's not going to come off down here into the pedal area. So setting the limiter screws there and here, pretty much the same. Okay, you're just setting the limit of how far the chain can travel. In between that is all depending on your barrel screws. Again, she has a barrel screw right here for adjustment, and she has a barrel screw up top for the shifter for the rear. Okay, on the front, she has a barrel screw here, and down here, she does not. Okay, so there's no barrel screw here, so you're just going to make sure you pull the slack out of the cable, which I have duct taped up because it was sticking out and kept poking her leg, and she kept thinking something was biting her. But I couldn't figure out what it was until I saw those. So you're also going to want to adjust the angle of the front derailleur, because it's mounted around this middle pole here that's straight up and down from your front cogs. You want to make sure that the angle is correct, and you want to make sure that the spacing between the derailleur and the top point here is spaced as well. Okay, it's going to also be 3 to 5 millimeters. By doing that, or to be able to do that, we need to loosen the screw on the back side, because it's just a round clamp that goes around, and the screw goes through the clamp, and the screw just pulls that clamp closed. So you loosen the screw, opens the clamp, and then you can slide that clamp up or down and twist it to create the angle or the depth of your derailleur on the front. That's all there is to that. Then as soon as you get those angles set, then all you have to do is get your limiter screws set so this won't come off on either side. Then you adjust your barrel screw up here to make sure that it shifts smoothly in between the gears. We do that second. We're going to set up the rear first. Why are we shifting to the top gear here and then the lowest gear here? Well, you want them kind of in line with each other, and you want the proper amount of tension on the rear derailleur, okay? There's no tension here on this derailleur. This is just a guide that just pushes and pulls the chain. It's not locked into gears like this one is, okay? So this has little sprockets here that are under tension, as well as the tension up here creates the tension on the chain, okay? And when you go ahead and shift, that changes the tension on your rear derailleur. So when we get up to the top one, we're going to want like a moderate uh, tension. You don't want a whole bunch of tension creating forces that you don't necessarily need happening while you're trying to adjust it. When we go up to the top limiter screw on the top gear, we're also going to adjust it at several points too. When we do the front, we're going to have this in different places as well. And it's basically just going to be the top or the bottom. You're never really going to have it anywhere in the middle. You just want it to have the farthest away angle. So you're going to have the chain set on the front derailleur on the top. And then if you have it on the bottom and get everything set up there and it's hunky-dory, start shifting through everything. When it gets all the way up here, it's got kind of this pull angle, a lot of force, a lot of tension. And you want it to sit up there comfortably, though, and not make any noise and not want to shift back down. So you want the tension not to pull. That's why you want it on the top gear, because you need to fix everything here, because generally that's the one you're going to stick with. Then you're going to adjust to the bottom one, and you're going to want to adjust that as well. I'm going to get you guys closer here to the action. We'll start working on the back derailleur, then we'll move to the front. Okay, so I got you guys closer to the action now. What we're looking at here is, instead of the 12 sprockets that mine has, this only has the 6 sprockets, so, or cogs on the cassette. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have it all the way down on the high gear. You know, it's the smallest, lowest. It's just weird to me. Then you have, and I'm just repeating this over and over again, so maybe it'll help you to kind of retain it as well. Memory retention through repetitive action. Yeah. So, and then you have the low gear, which is the bigger one, or the one that's higher up. Okay. Again, you got the plastic shield that's supposed to help prevent or protect the spokes mainly just from the chain going off. It's not really going to prevent. That's what the limiter screws are for. Over on the side here, we have the 2 screws. Now, this is pretty dirty because I haven't washed it yet, but we're going to ignore that for now. What we're going to do is we're going to shift the top one, or her front derailleur, we're going to shift it to all the way to the top gear. I'll go ahead and get that going. All right, it's already shifted into the top gear. So now I'm going to go through the shifts just to see what happens. Okay, so one at a time. Well, it doesn't want to go up onto that, so we'll fix that. I really have to pull hard just to get it to shift up to there. We'll go all the way back up. Now I'm going to go ahead and shift down one at a time. Seems to go down just fine, but it seems to have a lot of tension on it. I'm also hearing that the guide derailleur for the front is allowing the chain to make contact, so it's making a lot of noise. So we'll look at that later. But for now, we're going to do our best to ignore any noise or anything going on up here, and we're just going to make sure that we get this set up first. Okay, so we rewatched my footage while I was showing you how to get the chain out of the gear sprocket here. I took a second because I felt something was off. Well, the bike on the stand turned, so all you guys saw was a tire past that point. But essentially, all I'm doing is I just turned this limiter screw to make sure that it didn't come off the chain anymore. What I was trying to make it do is, when I turn the gear shifter knob up front, because she has a roll one that rolls back and forth like this, all I'm trying to do is force it to come off of here, okay? You can do 2 things. You can, as you're turning the gear, you can try to turn it and see if it comes off. 2, just look at this. When you're trying to turn the knob up here, does that move at all? And it does not. I'm moving the whole bike before I am moving this Shimano derailleur at all. So that means a limiter screw is actually dead stopping that chain from jumping off the other direction, okay? So just to confirm, we did that. I'm going through the different gears, one at a time. Oh, we seem to have some issue right there. So we're all the way at the bottom. So it doesn't want to shift up to that next gear, okay? So we'll adjust the adjustment barrel screw here until it actually does shift. Boom. Now, if I shift back down, should shift there. And see how it kind of wants to climb though? Keeps wanting to jump gears. Got a little too much adjustment on it. Hear the noise? So now we're going to release some tension. When you hear that noise go away, still wanted to kind of jump the gears, so can get it a little bit more, try it again. So that's pretty good right there. That's about what it's going to be for a Walmart shifter. As far as mine is way more precise than that. This one is a rolling one, so even though you go to that click, you're still going a little bit past that. So it still kind of wants to jump up in the gear, but generally if you just go to that click and let it sit, it will settle into that gear that you click to. That's what you want to see. Smooth operation. We got smooth operation, does not want to go past there, does not want to go past there on the smallest gear or on your high gear, and it does not want to go past and into the spokes on your low gear or the biggest gear. With that said, you got the B screw is the only other screw left to adjust, and like on mine, that only adjusts when this chain is up on your top cog. It just measures the distance between this cog, the upper cog on your derailleur, and your top cog or low gear on your bike. So plastic and metal. So the metal's going to chew through the plastic. That's why you don't want them to touch. And you don't want, and it's hard to tell because they're in between the chain at that point and grinding each other away. So, or the metal's actually grinding the plastic away. So we had shifted up here and tested, but when I did that, I looked and I only had, I had 5 millimeters of distance. That's about what you want, 3 to 5 millimeters, and it was totally good. But there is not a shifter screw on this for the adjustment. So it cannot adjust the depth between the two gears. It's preset at the factory. That's fine. Some of the bikes are going to come like that. So if you don't see a B screw on yours, don't fret. Don't worry about that. It's totally fine. You just want to make sure that distance is good. If the distance isn't good, these are pretty fixed. So that's going to be something that you may have to just get a new one of these, or you may have to look at the alignment of your actual frame. Now, these get slammed around, laid on the ground, or whatever. Again, that can mess this up. That's why this whole guard is here. I like that Walmart did that for, you know, kids and stuff like that. But if this thin part of metal that your wheel, your tire, and the whole gearing system attaches to all this, if this gets bent at all out of whack, then you're going to have a shifting issue and you need a whole different thing to happen. Okay. You may need to go ahead and heat this up and straighten it out. How you can do that? Well, that's a whole nother process that we can get into another day. But right now, I'm not going to worry about that. We're going to leave it as is, and we're going to move on to the front derailleur, in which I'm going to show you guys now. I'll bring you guys around to that side so you can see that better. Okay, guys, we are now on the front derailleur. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've loosened the cable here. So it's loose in there. Ignore the Gorilla Tape here. That was a protector from all this fraying to keep it from biting her leg as she was pedaling. Not a pleasant sensation. So one thing that they didn't do at Wally World was keep those protected ends on there. So that's it's not a good situation. We have the wire completely off of there, right? So it's out of the way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at, you're going to need a 9mm socket or wrench. I just have my ratchet, and I have this loosened up already. So what we're going to be looking at is we want the angle, and we also want the height between the top cog and the derailleur itself. We want that to be between 2 and 3 millimeters, which is about the size of the thickness of the chain or the height of the chain. So that way it can't come off this way anymore. It can't slip through the bottom of the derailleur and come off this way. Not that it really would, but it has potential, so we want to eliminate that potential. First things first, we're going to line it up so it's not at an angle, as you can see, like that with the gears. We want it to be pretty darn straight. So we're going to line it up straight, and then we'll adjust our height. Okay, so now that it's straight with the cog, we're going to go ahead and pull this outward towards us, and we're going to look at the gap here. So 3 millimeters, well, what is that? Well, that's about the size of the chain. So go ahead and take the chain, pull it up there. Can the chain slip through there? Nope, I think we're good. We just don't want it coming in contact with this sprocket here, because if it comes in contact with the sprocket, it's just going to cause excessive noise. It's going to be hard to pedal because it's going to be causing a drag, and you're also going to wear down the teeth, and you're going to cut through the derailleur. So I'll take my fancy dancy little GoPro here, and so you can see here as I pull this, you can see that cog right there. As I pull this, it's actually clearing that top cog, and that's about the height we want. See the thickness of the chain? It's not going to fit through there, so we're good to go, right? So now, again, we just want to make sure that the angle is good. Now we got our height set. We'll just double check our angle. And you can check it with this top cog. Just make sure it's in line with everything. That's actually pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So once you have your height and your angle set where you want, go ahead and snug it back down. And all this is a 9 millimeter bolt over here. You may have different forms of this, but they're generally all the same. There's a way to adjust the angle, and there's a way to adjust the height. And that's the first thing you want to set. So once you got that down, and it got it nice and tight again, so it's not going to move on you, now you got it set. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the limiter screws. We're going to make sure that it does not slip off this way and it does not slip off that way. Okay, so now to set the limiter screw, we're going to make sure that we have this shifted all the way down to the bottom. It is now in the bottom gear right now, and we want the back gear to be down at the bottom one of that cog set too. So it's going to be your high gear, but the smallest gear on the back. So it's pretty much in line with this guy. Now, what we're going to want to do is go ahead and adjust the limiter screw. I know we don't have the wire even attached yet. We'll get to that. So we're just going to take our limiter screw. There's the L screw and there's the H screw. Again, what are those? The low gear and the high gear. We're on the high gear right now, and that's going to be actually in line with this screw. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust this. I don't know if you'll see this move or not. See how I'm adjusting that right now? We're going to go ahead and we're going to put that just before it touches the back side of the derailleur to the chain. Okay? We're going to stay right there. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to shift the back cog set to the low gear, or the biggest gear. That's the closest to the tire. And why we're going to do that, we're going to watch the chain and see how close it gets to that derailleur. We want it as close as possible without making noise. So we're going to go ahead and shift and watch. So it's just barely touching. I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, I could back it off just a hair, just to get that noise to stop. Look at that. Stopped right there. Okay, so that's set. Next thing is we're going to be checking cable tension. Okay, so now that we have this adjusted, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the wire back around here. We're going to get it down on there. We're not going to make this too tight. Again, the barrel adjuster I have screwed all the way in, so that's clockwise all the way in to give all of this slack here. Okay, and now I'm going to back it out just a couple of turns. So now I got a little bit of room to be able to give some slack here if I want it. But really, I'm going to take all the slack out of it right now. What we're going to do is we're going to take the wire. Be careful, because if it's frayed, it could poke in. It's going to go right through your gloves. It's going to feel fun. There is a nut and a washer. You want to get the wire behind the washer. once you get it behind the washer. And another thing you can use is needle nose pliers. Okay, so here we have some basic needle nose pliers. And this is another way you can keep from getting those wire braids or barbs stuck in you. So you just want to get behind that washer, okay? And you want to wrap it up and around. And you want to kind of hold it right there. There's a little tab right here. Just make sure it goes over that tab and just kind of locks down. That's it. So now we're going to take our ratchet. It's in my other pocket, so give me just a second. And we're going to make sure we're turning the right direction. We're going to go ahead and tighten this down as much as we can by hand. And again, we're just looking to pull all the slack out of this. So I'm going to show you something right here. We're not looking to yank on this thing to the point where it's pulling this derailleur up like that, okay? So just let it relax in the position it's in. You just want to pull it taut, okay? Just get the slack out of it a little bit. I'm going to sit and I'm going to hold it there like that. So it's got some tightness to it, but it's not a lot, okay? So I just wanted to sit right there. I'm going to finger tighten till I can't do that anymore. And then I'm just going to take my ratchet, snug it down. So when you get to the point where it stops, just give it a little ump, okay? Just a little ump, okay? Good to go there. This, I'll tape all this up out of the way so it doesn't bite her in the leg later, okay? It's not interfering with the tire or anything we need to do right now. So now that we have our wire taut, we have our limiter screws set. We're going to double check again with the gear in the highest point in the back cog set and the low gear, so the biggest gear on the back, and you want it on the low one on the front. Now we're going to go ahead and shift. And then we want to see how good it's shifting. We want to know how good it's shifting outward. We want to see if it's going to come off the gear over here. So that's all we're looking about. I'm not worried about out shifting going up to this middle gear or out to the top gear here. So it shifts inward, really smooth, and it doesn't want to come off. So we're set there. Okay, so now we have our limiter screw for the bottom side set, which is this inner screw. We have that set so it will not come off the end over here. We've tested it where we're only looking for the downshift, and we're good there. We made sure we got the slack out of the cable. We made sure we had our alignment, and we made sure we got our distance. Next step, we're going to take it up to the top gear or the top cog here, and we're going to adjust the next limiter screw to make sure it doesn't come off the front side. Now, in this scenario, we're going to go ahead and shift this up to the front or up to the top with our shifter. If it doesn't want to shift all the way up top like it was kind of doing here, that may be because this limiter screw is not allowing it to jump up. The other reason is that maybe there's not enough tension on your cable here. It may be just something as simple as the limiter screw is screwed down too far, and so it won't allow that chain to rise up. The other thing is there's not enough tension on this cable. So we're going to go ahead and shift back down. We're going to apply some tension with the barrel screw. So we're going to make this wire tight. Now we're going to try shift again. See how it's shifting a little bit easier up to that spot? Okay, so now that we're at the top spot, we at least got it shifted up here. We're going to shift the back set down to the smallest gear or the high gear in the back, but on the top gear on the front. So go ahead and shift down to that gear there. Now you're going to want to set your limiter screw so that it does not want to come off this side. So you're going to look down in here, and I'll get my GoPro and a flashlight so you guys can see that a little clearer. Okay, so as we look down on here, you can see that the chain here has a gap in between the outer part of the derailleur and the chain itself. You want to try to make that gap as small as possible without the chain rubbing, okay? So again, this limiter screw, we're gonna go ahead and screw that in and make that gap smaller. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this down and I'm just gonna watch my gap here. Now I'm gonna turn my pedal. I got no rubbing going on. I think I'm good. So the gap now between the chain and the derailleur is just about a millimeter. It's very, very hair fine thin. So that's about where we want it. So now we're going to start testing our shifting. And depending on what style of shifter, if you have a clipped shifter, you want the numbers to correspond with the sprocket that it's on. If you have one of these twist knobs shifters like she has here, as you see in the picture, that you want the numbers to align as close as possible. 2 for 2, 1 for 1, 3 for 3. Now, on these shifter knobs, they're not going to be that close. They're not going to line up properly with the gears on the back, okay? So as long as you got good shifting and smooth shifting through here, and it's locking into a position on your twist shifter, that's about all you're gonna hope for to be good. So now, still doesn't wanna climb that. So let's go ahead and back that limiter screw off just a hair. And we'll add just a little bit more tension on our barrel screw. And we'll try shifting again. Much better. Okay, so that's about it. Well, okay, guys, so we have both bikes all geared up and all ready to go. I have this one washed and lubed up properly. The next step is to wash this one and get it lubed up properly. I have the gears adjusted both on the front and the rear derailleurs for her bike, and I have all 12 gears for my derailleur working nice and smooth on my bike on my 1x12. Again, 3, 6, 1, 12. There's other bikes out there like that. There's road bikes. There is the 10 speeds. They're all going to function just about the same. Now, your derailleurs may be different, may have different components on, but relatively speaking, they're all the same. They're all going to have limiter screws on them, and they're all going to have barrel adjusters, okay? And that's the main thing. My bike has that B screw for the height adjustment between the sprockets, and hers does not. There's things like that that'll be different. Yeah, that's how you do it, guys. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take long. It's just a few simple steps. You don't want to rush through this. This is something you want to take some time. You want to have to set aside an hour or two to go ahead and adjust the gear. So you want to set a whole day aside to adjust your bikes. Okay, don't think you're going to go ride a bike on the same day that you're doing all this stuff. Okay, because there's a lot of intricate stuff, but you want to take the time. You want to take a day and just make sure everything's ready to go. So then all you have to do is jump on it and go. Okay, and you want to do this once a season, you want to set it up. If you feel anything going on while you're shifting, going down the road or with the brakes, well, then you can bring it back in and make finite little adjustments, okay? But all the major stuff is set up for the season. So now you can just go ride spring, summer, fall until the season ends. And you put the bike up and then the next season comes out, do the same thing again. Just go through it and you'll get so fluid with it, it'll be easy. But if you need reference, not only my channel and what I'm showing you here, you can go to all these other channels. You have Google Machine, you have AI that will show you everything. All right, so from all of us here at 369 BNP, well, That's just me. I hope you're enjoying the videos. If you are, give them a like, subscribe to the channel for more. And as always, put a comment down below. Let us know your tips and tricks. It's a great time, people. So fix up your bikes, go for a ride, look up at the stars and those moon and the sun and the clouds and just go. It's a great day. It's a great day. 369 VNP. Thanks again.